There's an oft-repeated story online you'll often see bandied about by websites that don't do as much research as we do, that Kryptonite, the one substance known to be able to hurt Superman, was invented to give his voice actor a day off. As it turns out, that story isn't entirely true, with the aforementioned voice actor turning up to work when most of his job consisted of groaning into a microphone like he'd shit himself.
Okay, Karl, so what is this story?
Well, the story, as it's put forward by lesser fact websites that do not do their research, is that Kryptonite was invented to give the voice actor for Superman in the radio serials Adventures of Superman, Bud Collyer, the day off. And the story goes that Bud Collyer wanted to take time off, but they couldn't think of a way to write Superman out of the story because Superman is supposedly invincible.
He's also the main character, so he has to be in everyone, so it's like he has to be there.
And Bud Collyer also played Clark Kent, so if Superman's not in the story, Clark Kent has to be there too. And a little bonus fact about why Bud Collyer got the job of playing Clark Kent and Superman is that he was able to change his voice so dramatically that he sounded like completely different people when he was voicing Superman and when he was voicing Clark Kent.
So I really like it when you find out voice actors have like voiced so many different characters in TV shows and films. You think, oh my god, their range is so good.
I do like that, but it does make me a little bit sad sometimes when you realise like 90% of like all cartoons and animated shows are like the same 10 people.
Yeah.
It's like when you play a video game and go, it's Nolan North, Troy Baker, and Jennifer Hale. Like those three voice actors voice about like 70% of all AAA games. It's like, they're good, but it really does speak to how limited the pool of talent is for that industry, and also how difficult it is to break into it.
I just think of like when you watch Dragon Ball, like how many voices Christopher Sabat voices.
He's Piccolo and he's Vegeta, and then a bunch of others.
Isn't that like Master Roshi or Yamcha or
yeah.
something like that? I feel like he's got a long list of people.
And speaking of voice actors and Dragon Ball, do you have a favourite voice in that show?
It would be probably Christopher Sabat's voice.
As Vegeta, as Piccolo?
Yeah, Vegeta.
He's just so good, just like, woman.
You may have invaded my mind and my body, but there's one thing a Saiyan always keeps, his pride!
I think mine is Dameon Clarke, who does the voice of Cell. I'm not sure if he does it in the animated show, but he does it in the game Dragon Ball FighterZ, because he just has this smug smarminess to his voice. He's also the voice of Handsome Jack in Borderlands, and I fucking love that character too. And just when he's playing Cell, and he's like, you get the smug superiority that just like leaks out of every single one of Cell's pores.
So you do know me. Why wouldn't you? There are very few Earthlings who haven't heard of the great Cell.
Speaking of voice actor for Cell, I recently got Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Oh god.
Which is where you play through the entire Dragon Ball Z series. I fought Cell, and his like noise he makes when you like, you know, like blast him away is so funny because he goes,
I still like the noise Goku always just like, whoa! Just every time he gets hit. He sounds like he's having a great time. But it's an underappreciated aspect of voice acting, efforts I think they're called, which is just when you're hurt or like exerting yourself. Bringing it back to Bud Collyer and the Adventures of Superman and the idea that Kryptonite was invented to give him a day off, that's not entirely true. And the actual story is much more interesting.
Alright, so why was Kryptonite invented?
Largely just to add drama to the Superman stories, because as you might imagine, it's very difficult to write good, dramatic, exciting stories starring a bulletproof man.
Yeah, because you kind of need him to have some kind of weakness to make it more interesting, because if he was just like invincible, it's like, oh, Superman saves the day, it's just the same thing over and over again, so you kind of need to throw something in there.
Yeah, it's why Golden Age Superman and Silver Age Superman was so boring, because he's just unstoppable. Like, how do you stop this man? He's literally invincible. He's basically a god.
Yeah.
And the radio serials added the idea of Kryptonite, because like, if Superman does not have a weakness, every story he's involved with is inherently boring because there's no stakes, there's no threat. He can just solve the problem instantly. And you see great examples like deconstructing that idea in the modern day, stuff like One Punch Man. Where it shows you how boring it would be for a hero who could just solve every problem in one punch.
Yeah.
And it's like the idea of like, how would that weigh on someone who wants to be a hero but cannot enjoy being a hero because they derive no enjoyment because they're so powerful. But imagine if you were watching that show and it was 100% serious and it's played as if like One Punch Man is the coolest character ever, instead of like an absolute moron. It'd be boring, wouldn't it? You'd stop watching the show. And these radio serials were taken very seriously and they were very popular. And as a result, Bud Collyer rarely did get a chance to have a day off. And as mentioned, even when they introduced Kryptonite as a plot element to weaken Superman to like, you know, add stakes and drama to a story that he could otherwise solve in 10 seconds, Bud Collyer turned up to work.
I'm assuming that's because they needed him for
The groans.
the groans and the moans and the whimpers.
Because the radio serials were recorded live. And those lesser fact websites I mentioned before posit that when Superman was impacted by Kryptonite, they'd get an intern to groan into the microphone. He's like, "Oh, Superman, are you okay?" 'Cause anyone can do that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not as convincingly as I just did it then, but anyone can just do the noise.
Get Karl in to do it.
And now, can we please just cut once again to the big nasty ookabong noise? Just the
Or cut to the cell noise that I referenced earlier.
Oh, Goku. Whoa! Oh, there's just so many things like that in video games that crack me the fuck. I think the one that I like the most is in Halo, where there's like a 1% chance that elites will sometimes just scream for about 30 seconds when they're hit, and there's like a glitch where your character will get meleeed and fly into the atmosphere, so it's just, whoa! It's like, that's amazing. That's the best thing I've ever seen.
Oh, I think we always mention like, how would you like scream acting? It's just so funny.
It's the best. It's like when I was playing Grand Theft Auto one time, and I jumped out of a helicopter as NIKO Bellic, and he landed neck first and survived, and just stood up and went, "I fucking hate this country," because he screamed the entire way down, and just stood up like, oh no, the microphone.
Have you heard that song that, I can't remember the artist, but they did a song about NIKO being basically annoyed at his cousin ringing him to go bowling? You know, it's called, it's like, "NIKO, it's your cousin. Why won't you take me bowling?" It's an actual song.
NIKO, it's your cousin. Why don't you take me bowling? I can't believe this.
I just want to draw attention to the fact as well, like when I was looking for pictures of this article, I was like, are there any pictures of like Superman being hurt by Kryptonite? And this is the one I found. That is that noise. That's the noise. The thing is, I found multiple as well, because there's another one who just like, because there's just something about the idea of Superman, like the man of tomorrow, just being on the floor like, just weak. But to bring it back to the pertinent fact from today's video, Bud Collyer was in the studio the entire time Kryptonite was first introduced, providing the super whimpers and groans of the weakened Superman. And that's just amazing. What a great day of work. Just But to bring it back to the idea of Kryptonite being used to give Bud Collyer a day off, that is not why it was invented. It was simply invented to give the stories involving Superman more drama and stakes. However, writers very quickly realised that Kryptonite was an effective way to write Superman out of a story he could otherwise solve in several seconds. So they did start using it as an excuse to give Bud Collyer time off. And if you wanted to take a day off, they'd just say, okay, we'll write a Kryptonite story. We'll just say Superman's not here because either dealing with another problem or Kryptonite happened. And that's where the interns would groan into the microphone on his behalf. But it was not invented for that reason. They just realised that it was a handy excuse to do it.
I don't know, I'm just imagining him like lying in bed like, "I can't leave today. Kryptonite. It's too much kryptonite."
They should just bring the microphone into his bed if he's got a hangover. It's like, those noises are great. They're the noises we need for the for the Kryptonite groans. But what makes it really funny is eventually Kryptonite got so overused in those stories that people started to complain about it. It's like, initially people complained that Superman's so powerful he solves every problem. And now it's like, well, now you just keep putting Kryptonite everywhere. Everyone's got Kryptonite. That's boring itself. So they had to come up with a Kryptonite for Kryptonite to weaken that in the form of lead, which Kryptonite's radiation cannot go through. Fans of Superman will know that lead is one of the few things he cannot see through, and it's also one of the few things the radiation from Kryptonite cannot get through to affect him. And that's why you always get those things in the shows, like they'll have the little piece of Kryptonite in the box and go, "Wah!" And it's like, "Oh no!" Kryptonite was not invented to give Superman's voice actor a day off. It was invented because the stories that involving Superman had no stakes, and then they realised it could be used to give him a day off when he was hungover.
That's when he's hungover, he's had too much kryptonite.
We've had too much Midori. We've all been there though, haven't we? Every now and again you're just there like when someone opens the curtains, that's like kryptonite in it with a hangover. Like, no!
I'm like that most days, hungover or not.
Like a vampire in it. When you like,